Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk all about my experiences on Startup Chile. So I'm hoping this will be useful to you either if you have no idea what an equity-free accelerator is, or if you're looking to apply to one, or if you're looking at Startup Chile in particular. I'm going to kind of cover a bit of everything. An equity-free accelerator is a government-run program where they try and attract entrepreneurs into their city or their country. So there's a bunch of them all over the world. Right now we're at the one in Santiago, Chile, and the government are paying entrepreneurs to come here with an equity-free grant. So it's kind of investment in your company, but they don't get shares or a percentage or anything. So you don't have to give them anything back, which is kind of crazy. And what they get back in exchange is mostly mentoring. So we've come to Chile and we are helping local businesses learn more about entrepreneurship. We're telling our friends back home in England, like Santiago is really cool. And ultimately they hope that we will choose to set up our business here forever and therefore be paying taxes and creating employment and all those kind of things. So they're trying to basically kickstart their entrepreneurship and their business kind of demographic by paying talent to come here. So obviously San Francisco is the tech hub of the world and all the big companies set themselves up there, so all the talent moves there and there's kind of a brain drain from the whole rest of the world. So other cities are trying to compete by putting an initial investment of paying people to come there in the hope that they'll fall in love and then stay and then create a kind of ecosystem of its own. So we're currently on the Chilean one. This is the first one we've ever done, and obviously the free money is amazing. This one is 6 months and it's about $30,000, which is a lot of money. And the way that you get that is you have to submit kind of eligible expenses. So for example, we hire freelancers, you can hire server space or do Facebook ads or whatever stuff you spend on your business, they will then pay for. So you have to have spent the $30,000 and then they kind of sign up your expenses. There is an amount that you can do on things like accommodation, which is capped. And if you set up a local company, you can pay yourself through that and get a salary from Startup Chile, which again is capped. So if you don't want to move to Chile, then there are a bunch of other equity-free programs over the world. They all have different specifications. Some of them are only looking for health startups or fitness startups. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter, some are more money, some are less money. They kind of all vary. Some of them you have to set up a company in that country. Some of them you don't. In Chile you don't have to, but if you want to, they will help you. So look into all the different information. I will include a link to a website down below which kind of lists all the different ones that they know about, so you can have a look at which countries you're interested in. Now, onto some specific tips about Startup Chile in a kind of practical sense of how to get the best out of the process. A lot of these tips will probably be relevant to other accelerators as well. I'll let you know when we've done some more, but hopefully this will be useful to you, especially if you're applying or on Startup Chile. So first of all, do everything as early as possible. I think probably a combination with South America being pretty chill and government things being quite bureaucracy heavy, everything is quite slow. So we spend the money and then we submit receipts, but to submit the receipts you need your account manager to sign off on it, and then you meet up with a kind of accountant who checks all the numbers match up and that you've got the right tax numbers and the right dates and stuff, and then he'll sign off on it and then the money is paid to you several weeks later. So that lead time can be a couple of months before you actually get any money, which is fine if, like us, you can afford it. So we were paying our contractors and stuff out of our own company money, but we could still live even when we were waiting for Startup Chile to pay us back, whereas some other people have been really tight for money because, you know, they're startups, so they can't really afford to pay contractors if the money is going to be paid back to them in like 2 months' time. So I would recommend just getting everything done as soon as possible. So pretty much the first day you arrive, be like, great, when can I book a meeting with my account executive? And that'll probably be in 3 weeks' time. And by the time it's been 3 weeks, you will have prepared all your invoices and stuff. So just get everything as early as you can. And we're allowed one accountant meeting a month, which is where we get our expenses approved and they issue the payment. So while we're in one meeting, when it's finished, we say, can we book the next meeting for 1 month today? Because otherwise, if you wait a couple of weeks and then email for a meeting, it's going to be another month. So you just want to get everything done as early and as fast as possible, just to get yourself through the system, because you only have 5 to 6 months. So if you're going to get all the money out, you have to do it as early as possible. So that would be my number one tip, is just get all your meetings as early as you can. They do have one system where we have done the version where we pay it up front and then we submit receipts and we get it expensed back. They do have a separate version where you can get the money in advance and then you submit receipts to prove that you've spent the money, and then you get more money. That might sound better to you because you get the money up front. So if you can't afford to pay your expenses in advance, then you'll have to do that version. But it has proved to be a lot more difficult because the money has maybe been delayed, or you have to have twice as many meetings because you have to meet before to say, I need the money because I'm going to spend it. Then you get the money, then you meet afterwards and you're like, look, I prove I spent it. So it's a lot more labor intensive. And you also have to take out Chilean insurance, which says if you run off with the money, then your insurance will pay it back. So that's an extra expense, an extra hassle. And if you can afford to pay your expenses up front because you're using company money like we were, then I would definitely recommend doing that. My next tip is to open up a separate bank account just for your Startup Chile stuff. So we opened just another NatWest account back in the UK so that we don't have our other business expenses or our personal expenses going through it. Only the things that we're going to expense to Startup Chile, we pay out of that account. And then when we submit our bank statements to Startup Chile, we don't need to blank out any personal expenses. The statement isn't like 6 pages long. We just have one bank statement with about 6 things along it, and they're just all going to be submitted to Startup Chile. So it makes it very, very simple to keep track of, and you're not trawling through your bank statement like, oh, there's Uber, there's PayPal, oh, there's my contractor. So highly recommend that. That's been very, very making it a lot easier for us. And similarly, I would recommend you submit as few expenses as possible, but make them big ones. So we have, in our last financial meeting, I think we submitted 6 expenses, and they were pretty much all employees. So it works out as several £1,000s, but it's not like, oh, we have Dropbox Premium and we have a VPN and we have some servers. We just said, you know, here's a developer who cost X £1,000 and here's a marketer, and we submitted just a few very big expenses, just like our rent and some employees, you know, an accountant, a lawyer, that kind of thing. So if you can, that makes the meetings a lot quicker. Most people, their meetings here with the accountant takes a couple of hours because they're combing through so many expenses. They've got this huge bank statement where they're going, oh, where's number 7? Whereas we just have 6 expenses on a bank statement, 6 expenses in invoice form, and we're just like, here you go. So our last meeting took 15 minutes and no one could believe it. The other group sat next to us hadn't even started by the time we'd finished. They were still kind of chatting. So highly recommend you consider what big expenses you could submit that will be eligible to try and reduce your kind of admin load. And I'm also going to include a pop-up now of how I organise the expenses. We have to have a kind of Excel form filled in with what all the expenses are, their invoice number, their conversion from euros or pounds or dollars into Chilean pesos, the date that they were, all that kind of thing. And then those are numbered 1 to however many it is. And I do the numbers in the same order as the bank statement. So the bank statement is chronological and the invoices follow that. And then I write the number on the bank statement and the invoice and the Excel sheet. So they all correlate. It's very easy. Our accountant will just say to us, where's number 1? And I'll just say it's the top of the bank statement, here's the number 1 invoice, and here's the number 1 on the kind of approved Excel sheet. So that keeps it really easy. Just keep everything as straightforward as possible because you're already going to be getting kind of tangled up in numbers, and that just keeps it really simple. So on Startup Chile, you don't have to set up a local company, and I would say if you are going to set one up and if you're going to stay in Chile, then set up the local company as soon as possible while you're on Startup Chile and really kind of deep into it, because they will give you help. They have contacts, they have shortcuts. So for example, they really helped us get a visa and a local ID card. We skipped like a 6-hour-long queue. We just went straight to the front because we were here with Startup Chile. So if you're going to do all those administrative kind of legal things, do them straight away and do them with the Startup Chile team, because they do it multiple times a year, they have lots of contacts. But if you're not planning on staying in Chile permanently and running your business from there, don't get involved in setting up a company if you can help it, because it is quite a headache. And a few people I know have done it, because if you have a company, you can submit for a personal salary, which is capped at I think about $400 a month, I can't remember. So they were like, great, we'll take a salary, but it's been such a headache. It would have been better if they could have just submitted an expense worth of that amount for a contractor or something. So we kind of made the mistake of thinking we definitely don't need a company, we'll avoid all of that, and that was fine, we've expensed other things. But now that we're reaching the end of our program, we're thinking actually Chile's been really cool for business and we would quite like to stay here, and now setting up a company and getting bank accounts and stuff is all much more difficult because we're almost out of the program, and so we don't have as much help from the Startup Chile team. We're kind of against the clock because, you know, we leave in a month and after that we can't really have their help. So I would say very early on in the program, decide, am I likely to stay here long term? And if so, just get really involved in the team and let them help you with all of that legal stuff. And similar to that, my final big piece of advice is just to get really stuck in. There's a lot of opportunity for mentoring and finding out. They've got a lot of amazing local contacts. Some people we know have got huge brands in Chile just from Startup Chile, like hooking them up with someone. They're very, very well known. So if you need a contact, they have a lot of amazing people. I would say that realistically, we spend about a day a week on Startup Chile stuff, which we don't always feel is very necessary. There's quite a lot of like, they give us kind of university lectures and we meet up with mentors that they've given us, and there's quite a bit of that we think can be a bit of a time drain, and it's about a day a week of admin and activities. But to counteract that, you do have this amazing opportunity to get into a network and get a lot of help. I think there's a balance to be had. If you get the invoices and stuff done as quickly and as low hassle as possible, and you try and get the money as soon as you can, then that will counteract the time that is taken up by the kind of activities. But also you really throw yourself into the program. So we go along to a lot of the events, we're pretty well known, and all of that is going to be so valuable. And also it's been really fun. You're there on Startup Chile, there are 80 other startups. We've met some really awesome like contacts and friends for the future, so I would definitely recommend you get fully stuck in. We've taken on quite a lot of mentoring opportunities. So Ed is linked with one startup who he kind of intensively mentors, and then I lecture at the university. If you're going to come, get fully stuck in and work from the co-working space and go along to all the events, and just try and cut some corners on speeding up the kind of administrative process, and you'll have an amazing time. Next, when we leave Chile, I'm going back to the UK very briefly, and then we haven't decided, we might come back here, or we might be going to Australia, or we might be going back to Thailand. So it's all up in the air right now, but I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I'll see you again soon. Bye.